Hi everyone! Today with us we have Chinmayi, founder of Simply Neuroscience. And what year are you at Columbia actually? I don't
I'm
know.
a second year at the
Second
moment.
year, perfect. So Chinmayi, if you could give a better introduction of yourself, that would be great.
Sure. Hello there. My name is Chinmayi. I am from Northern California, which is where I currently live as well. I'm 18 years old and I'm currently a second year undergrad student at Columbia University, which is where I am studying neuroscience and medical humanities. And some of my passions include research. I'm heavily involved in neuro research on campus, in a variety of different realms. And outside of that, as you mentioned, I lead Simply Neuroscience as the founder and CEO. So heavily involved in neuroscience outreach efforts and really trying to bridge the early neuroscience gap through a framework of education, outreach, and awareness. And I would say outside of the sciences, I really enjoy writing poetry. Very, very amateur, but I enjoy writing poetry. I enjoy practicing martial arts. I think living in California, by virtue of that, I really enjoy being outside and having lots of trees and nature around. So I do really enjoy going for long walks on nature trails and honestly anything outside, gardening, things like that. So that's a little bit about me.
Wow, that's actually really interesting, especially the martial arts. Never thought never thought about that. That's interesting. And yes, California weather is great. I'm from Atlanta, and our weather is okay. So that's really cool. So I guess we're going to get into more about how the story behind kind of how you got into neuroscience, because I know that's, especially for women in STEM, that's not a very, I guess, common. I mean, hopefully it's becoming more common with like simply neuroscience and bridging the gap, but it hasn't been very common. So just kind of how you got into what you do and all of that. That would be great.
Yeah, for sure. I honestly stumbled across neuroscience. It wasn't something that I set out with knowing for sure that I was going to go out doing. I think it really grew out of my interest in anatomy and the human body in general. I was very much a biology kid when I was growing up, and to some extent, I definitely still am. And so I slowly started venturing into neuroscience through biology. And it was honestly a series of chance encounters, chance opportunities when it came to participating in these brain bee competitions for high schoolers or getting involved in the research opportunities and being able to focus more on specific topics relating to the brain. That's sort of how I got more into neuroscience. And I would say with my organization founding story and all of that, it definitely ties into a large part of my own explorations in the field. And so definitely a driving aspect has been trying to break outside of the bio bubble, even within neuroscience and even the medicine bubble a little bit, and try to think about all the connections of the field with a diverse range of topics and themes, and thinking about how it can really, because it's a multifaceted field, so how it can really impact us in a more meaningful way is sort of my story, and it really parallels a lot of my organization's story as well.
Yeah, definitely. That is very, very interesting. Especially the brain bee competitions. I've heard a lot about that. Are they like spelling bees or in geography bees, but for like brain trivia or neuroscience trivia? Or
Yeah, a lot of neuro trivia. There's some pretty interesting parts. There's depends on chapter to chapter of competition, but there's a patient diagnosis section where you get to pretend to be in the shoes of a professional, a healthcare professional. You get to, it, again, depends, but you get chances to interact with actual brain specimens for neuroanatomy or histology or things like that, and definitely also trivia. But I think in the sense that it's meaningful trivia. I mean, trivia is always meaningful, of course, but I think that it's applicable trivia in that, for instance, learning about Parkinson's disease. You're not just learning about it as in, this is what all the symptomatology is, but here's also what steps have been taken to try to address symptom severity or outcomes and things like that. So it's very much, knowledge that can carry out into more advanced education and such, which is a really interesting virtue of the competition. It's definitely, I think, my my base in brain being exposure to that was definitely what created a strong kind of a framework for me as I further learning in higher education and neuro.
Yeah, that's really good. These types of competitions are really good for especially high schoolers, and I know they have like spelling bees and stuff for middle schoolers, so definitely at those ages too. And I love how you said you were mostly a bio kid in school because that is definitely me still in school, obviously. But it's good to like also get out of that bio bubble. I know because I got exposed to like chemistry and physics and different things, and it's all pretty interesting. So
For sure.
yeah. So in high school, did you, like you said, you were kind of in the bio bubble, but did you always know you wanted to go into medicine or neuroscience or study any of those related fields? Or was it just like a very big shift?
I don't think it was a big shift, as in like I woke up one morning and was a completely different person. I think it was gradual. It was very gradual. It was a gradual transition. I I always sort of knew that science was a calling, and I mean from the time that I was conscious, science was fascinating. So I don't really know when my sort of strong passion for it started. But with medicine, I think the desire for a lot of younger folks, especially when really, really young, like before middle school, I think the desire to help is something that drives a lot of us. And obviously, my reasons for wanting to become a physician or a physician scientist are completely different now than they were, let's say, how old am I even at this point? 10 years ago. Uh, so definitely a lot of growth in that way. And I think neuroscience too, interacting with kind of a lot of the ethical side of it too, and thinking about the impact of really neuroscience in society is a big driving factor in kind of my journey with thinking about healthcare and helping and giving back in society as well. So
Yeah, the medical field is definitely one to give back. We really appreciate all of those workers and other fields too as well. And I definitely agree the whole giving back thing as we're younger definitely affects some of our choices later in life. And I love that volunteering community, that feel is great. So definitely. Okay, so we're gonna get into kind of what your day-to-day life looks like. It's probably not the same every day, because that'd be kind of boring. But kind of just like what you do in a day. I know quarantine. Are you online? Are you going to college online? I'm guessing because you're in California.
yeah.
Yeah, wow, that must be interesting. So like the whole experience with that, and maybe like even about your hobbies, like martial arts, poetry, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, so definitely classes, especially with having college on the East Coast. I have class, 5:30, 6 in the morning, so it's very fun. But definitely, have kind of become a little bit of a morning riser, which is a great habit. But I usually have classes for a couple of hours, and sometimes there are, larger chunks in the middle of the day. So I might be, the great thing about college schedules too is the flexibility. So oftentimes I'll be working on, research duties or responsibilities between classes, or I might be attending, especially recently, doing a lot of partnership calls for SN too. So catch up meetings, things like that. And then might have one class or two in the evening. It depends. And then usually late evenings is when there are meetings for student organizations that I'm involved in on campus. So two that I'm involved in pretty regularly are Synapse and Science Review. So we usually have meetings later on the night because most people are done with classes by that time. Some classes run to like 10:30, which is really interesting, especially lab classes. But everyone's out at that time, so it's a little bit earlier for me since I'm on the West Coast at the moment. But yeah, it's usually a pretty big mix of you know, um, classes, involved with research, SN meetings, club meetings, and occasionally if I'm, hosting a workshop, I usually do those on weekends a lot more since it's a lot more flexible, but any neuro workshops or like intro to research workshops, things like that. But sometime in the middle, early evenings, I would say I forgot to mention, I love to garden. So it's usually when I go and water my plants, get all the succulents looking healthy, and occasionally, also when I would practice taekwondo around that time. Late afternoon to early evening is kind of that little bit of a buffer period, I would say. So
Yeah. Oh, gardening is very cool. I respect all people who garden because all my plants die. So that is That's very cool. And
Yeah.
yeah, time difference, I didn't think about that at all because
It's very fun.
you, yeah. But I'm glad it's working out because I know online classes have been difficult, especially in college. Very, very difficult. Do you ever feel like you're missing out on maybe your second year? I know you've already had your freshman year, so you're kind of used to it, but yes.
Yeah, I guess so. But it's also like in the scale of a pandemic, this is all really odd. So I'm willing to take one for the team and go along with this. And yes, I'm very thankful to have at least have had almost a full year, or three-fourths of a year on campus. Because I think definitely it gave me a perspective on what college could be, what I could do with it. So now that we're virtual, I guess a silver lining is that I now have a lot more time in some ways, but also a lot more duties in other ways, family responsibilities too. So it's very much time management is odd. And with Zoom and everything virtual too, sense of time is just off. I thought yesterday was August. So, but other than that, it's been okay. I'm thankful to be, happy, healthy, safe, and things are going okay. So can't ask for more.
Yeah, definitely. Is Columbia like all online or the kids, students near there going?
There are students in person. A few of my friends are in person as well. It's they're trying to de-densify as much as possible. So individuals who maybe are looking for a stable environment are on campus. Some of them are off campus but still in the city. And anyone with housing insecurity, for instance, is located on campus at the moment. So it's a very low population. I believe there's less than 1,000 undergrads on campus, I believe. So they're really trying to get as many people off campus as possible to reduce risk of transmission. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So I'm going to pull up kind of the slideshow that I have for our game trivia. The categories you chose were, they were STEM and book/reading. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So for STEM, I just kind of cheated and made it all neuroscience because um, I know that you are pretty.
Embarrassing if I failed.
They're not too hard. They shouldn't be. Uh-oh. Okay. So these are just some really quick trivia, multiple choice, not super hard. So the first question is no pressure or anything. This is just for fun. But can you read this? About how much does an adult human brain weigh? And you have some options: 3 pounds, 2 pounds, or 4 pounds. They're all very close.
I want to say it's 3 pounds, though I vaguely remember reading from like brain facts from forever ago. I think there was three or four listed, but one was pounds and one was kilograms. So hence the dissonance there. But I'm gonna go with three. Three seems like a good estimate, 3 pounds.
Yep, that's it. You're
There we go.
right. I didn't want to change up
Kilograms.
the um the measurement, so I just kept them all in pounds.
Yeah.
But yes, 3 pounds. They're all very close, so that's good. Okay, so next question. At approximately what age does the brain stop growing? And I love this picture. I think it's
I do too. It's very cute. I want to say 21 because I think the executive functions keep developing up until then.
it is actually 18.
18. Ah,
Yes, but very close. I tried to trick it with that one by putting 21 because those ages are kind of milestone ages.
yeah. I think because there's like the whole discussion of plasticity and how much your brain keeps growing, or not, at least not growing, but still forming in some ways into even your late 20s, which is kind of crazy to think about. Um,
Wow.
there's the whole discussion of 21 being drinking age, for instance. There's discussion about if your brain's actually fully formed by 21 to make decisions, but a lot of ethical things in there.
We might need to fact check this then.
I don't know. I don't think there's a firm answer.
Oh wow.
So, but 18 seems pretty reasonable. Yeah.
But I can see what you're saying too. Definitely current research can change that.
Yeah, we always are expanding it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this question, I don't know. Like, I wouldn't have gotten this, but I'm not a neuroscience expert, so we will see. um, which hemisphere of the brain has more neurons? Is that even?
I actually don't know this. I've never thought about it. I'm going to say they're equal. I feel like this might be a trick question.
When I read, like I was reading to try to find some questions for you, it said left.
Interesting.
Something about the left side having more something about language or creativity being in that. I don't know how those relate though, but I don't know anything about neuroscience. So.
It may depend on. I'm like I did not know this fact. But maybe something with there's different folds in the brain, so the thickness of them and the surface area of them determines how many neurons there are in there. So maybe something with that, because there are certain like specialized areas on both sides, like you mentioned. So maybe something to do with that. It's kind of cool.
Ah, that is interesting. I am learning today, so that is very cool.
I'm learning too.
Okay, this is the last neuroscience question. We can deep breaths. But what is the name of the chemical signal used between neurons?
Neurotransmitter, all the way.
Yes. Yay. Yes. I know I mix up, like I'm doing AP Psych and I'm going through all the parts and I mix up a lot of them, especially dendrite and all that stuff. So, very good job. I even have a picture for you. But the next category for you is books and reading. So, all I have is like a name of a hopefully famous book character. And all you have to do is tell us what book it's from. It shouldn't be too difficult. But here's the first one.
Radley. Oh, To Kill a Mockingbird. My favorite books.
Yes, yes, such a good book, and actually love this character. Like, he's mean in the. Ooh, I don't want to spoil, but like, I love this character.
Yeah.
Okay, um,
Sarah Carter.
this is a little non. This is a not very common, but it's a very recent book, or recent enough. I'm trying to think of a hint if you don't know.
Yeah, I love a hint.
I haven't actually read this book, but there's a oh gosh, there's some racial tensions in the plot. Maybe I don't actually know the plot of this book either. Between this character and maybe her friend, I think she's a girl. Um, I honestly have not read this. I don't know why I picked this. This is the main character from The Hate You Give, the book that's also a movie now.
Oh, I've heard about it. I do not know anything about it though.
Same. Honestly, I don't know why, but I really like the story that I've heard. I haven't read the book, but I should read it. But that's Star. Okay, this one. All right, this one should be pretty easy.
No, no recognition at all.
No recognition at all. Okay, this is the main character from the Divergent series. Have you read any of the books in that series?
Oh,
Her name is
Chris.
Triss, so I tried to, yeah, I
Oh,
tried to trick you with that too.
wow. Really got me there. I read those like way back in middle school. Yeah, how many years even is that? It's like 7 years ago, 6 years ago. That's
Yeah,
crazy. That's actually crazy.
trick
Yeah,
questions.
got me there.
But I definitely get, like, no one ever calls her Beatrice besides the first sentence, maybe. Okay, this one, I don't know. Now that I think about it, some of these might be hard. This is the last one after this. And this is it's like a classic, but not really.
Oh my God, Lizzie, Pride and Prejudice.
Yes.
Lizzie, I actually read this last semester.
Really?
Love it. Yeah.
I have yet to read, but I love
Um,
that you knew this one. That,
I mean, I'm kind of a classics girl, core curriculum too. So yeah, this is a good
all
one.
right,
Love Jane
that's
Austen.
great. But thank you for playing. You did
Woo!
pretty well.
Happy understanding.
Okay, so we are almost at the end. I guess this will be just kind of a little wrap up. Anything you want to tell anyone who's watching who maybe is interested in STEM or neuroscience or wants to graduate early or do anything cool with their lives?
I would say I think holding on to ambition is super important because once I think in STEM, once we kind of figure out our path and our niche, we kind of settle into a comfort zone. But I personally think that it's super important to always push the boundaries, even if it's on a smaller scale, always learning. I know people who like to learn new languages, things like that. Just having a sort of spark, a desire to wake up every day and try to learn a little bit more is super important. So I would just say, and we're still young, we're still finding our way out in the world, but even sometimes when we're young and we're content with school, we just kind of forget that there is a scope for learning. So I think it's great to be able to hold on to that.
Yeah, I know, like, especially with virtual learning, a lot of kids are getting into grades and stuff and they're forgetting about learning. Maybe they aren't learning as much, so that's definitely taking a toll on some people. But I love that advice. Always have that ambition, have that eagerness to learn, because I know that'll be very helpful. So thank you so much for talking with us today and playing some hopefully not too stressful games and revisiting old memories with Beatrice. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course.